UFO stories. Investigations. UFOs have been subject to investigations over the years that varied widely in scope and scientific rigor. Governments or independent academics in the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, Japan, Peru, France, Belgium, Sweden, Brazil, Chile, Uruguay, Mexico, Spain, and the Soviet Union are known to have investigated UFO reports at various times. Among the best-known government studies are the Ghost Rockets investigation by the Swedish military, 1946 to 1947, Project Blue Book, previously Project Sign, and Project Grudge, conducted by the USAF from 1947 until 1969, the secret U.S. Army, Air Force Project Twinkle investigation into green fireballs, 1948 to 1951, the secret USAF Project Blue Book Special Report No. 1444, by the Battelle Memorial Institute, and the Brazilian Air Force's 1977 Operação Prado, Operation Saucer. France has had an ongoing investigation, Japan/CEPRA/GPAN, within its space agency Centre National d'études spatiales, CNES. Since 1977, the government of Uruguay has had a similar investigation since 1989. Project Grudge, dismantled and became Project Grudge at the end of 1948. Angered by the low quality of investigations by Grudge, the Air Force Director of Intelligence reorganized it as Project Blue Book in late 1951, placing Ruppelt in charge. Blue Book closed down in 1970, using the Condon Committee's negative conclusion as a rationale, thus ending official Air Force UFO investigations. However, a 1969 USAF document, known as the Bollender Memo, along with later government documents, revealed that non-public U.S. government UFO investigations continued after 1970. The Bollender Memo first stated that reports of unidentified flying objects that could affect national security are not part of the Blue Book system, indicating that more serious UFO incidents already were handled outside the public Blue Book investigation. The memo then added, reports of UFOs which could affect national security would continue to be handled through the standard Air Force procedures designed for this purpose. Note 2, in addition, in the late 1960s a chapter on UFOs in the Space Sciences course at the U.S. Air Force Academy gave serious consideration to possible extraterrestrial origins. When word of the curriculum became public, the Air Force in 1970 issued a statement to the effect that the book was outdated and cadets instead were being informed of the Condon Report's negative conclusion. USAF Regulation 202. Air Force Regulation 202 issued in 1953 and 1954, defined an unidentified flying object, UFOB, as any airborne object which by performance, aerodynamic characteristics, or unusual features, does not conform to any presently known aircraft or missile type, or which cannot be positively identified as a familiar object. The regulation also said UFOBs were to be investigated as a possible threat to the security of the United States and to determine technical aspects involved. The regulation went on to say that it is permissible to inform news media representatives on UFOBs when the object is positively identified as a familiar object, but added, for those objects which are not explainable, only the fact that ATIC, Air Technical Intelligence Center, will analyze the data as worthy of release, due to many unknowns involved. Project Blue Book, Left, and Jacques Vallée. J. Allen Hynek, a trained astronomer who served as a scientific advisor for Project Blue Book, was initially skeptical of UFO reports, but eventually came to the conclusion that many of them could not be satisfactorily explained and was highly critical of what he described as the cavalier disregard by Project Blue Book of the principles of scientific investigation. Leaving government work, He founded the privately funded UFOs, to whose work he devoted the rest of his life. Other private groups studying the phenomenon include the MUFON, a grassroots organization whose investigators' handbooks go into great detail on the documentation of alleged UFO sightings. Like Hynek, Jacques Vallée, a scientist and prominent UFO researcher, has pointed to what he believes is the scientific deficiency of most UFO research, including government studies. He complains of the mythology and cultism often associated with the phenomenon, but alleges that several hundred professional scientists, a group both he and Hynek have termed the Invisible College, continue to study UFOs in private. The study of UFOs has received little support in mainstream scientific literature. Official studies ended in the U.S. in December 1969, following the statement by the government scientist Edward Condon that further study of UFOs could not be justified on grounds of scientific advancement. The Condon report and its conclusions were endorsed by the National Academy of Scientists, of which Condon was a member. On the other hand, a scientific review by the UFO Subcommittee of the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics, AIAA, disagreed with Condon's conclusion, noting that at least 30% of the cases studied remain unexplained, and that scientific benefit might be gained by continued study. Critics argue that all UFO evidence is anecdotal and can be explained as prosaic natural phenomena. Defenders of UFO research counter that knowledge of observational data, other than what is reported in the popular media, is limited in the scientific community and further study is needed. No official government investigation has ever publicly concluded that UFOs are indisputably real, physical objects, extraterrestrial in origin, or of concern to national defense. These same negative conclusions also have been found in studies that were highly classified for many years, such as the UK's Flying Saucer Working Party, Project Condign, the US CIA-sponsored Robertson Panel, the U.S. military investigation into the green fireballs from 1948 to 1951, and the Battelle Memorial Institute study for the USAF from 1952 to 1955, Project Blue Book Special Report No. 14. Some public government reports have acknowledged the possibility of physical reality of UFOs, but have stopped short of proposing extraterrestrial origins, though not dismissing the possibility entirely. Examples are the Belgian military investigation into large triangles over their airspace in 1989 to 1991 and the 2009 Uruguayan Air Force study conclusion, see below. Some private studies have been neutral in their conclusions, but argued that the inexplicable core cases call for continued scientific study. Examples are the Stork Panel study of 1998 and the 1970 AI review of the Condon Report. U.S. investigations into UFOs include. According to UFO researcher Timothy Good, he received a letter from the Army's Director of Counterintelligence confirming the existence of the Interplanetary Phenomenon Unit. Good claims the letter shows that the IPU was established by the U.S. Army sometime in the 1940s and disestablished sometime during the late 1950s. Project Blue Book, previously Project Sign and Project Grudge, conducted by the USAF from 1947 until 1969. The secret U.S. Army, Air Force Project Twinkle investigation into green fireballs, 1948 to 1951. Ghost rockets investigations by the Swedish, UK, US, and Greek militaries, 1946 to 1947. The Secret CIA Office of Scientific Investigation, OS/I, Study, 1952 to 53. The Secret CIA Robertson Panel, 1953. The Secret USAF Project Blue Book Special Report No. 14 by the Battelle Memorial Institute, 1951 to 1954. The Brookings Report, 1960, commissioned by NASA. The Public Condon Committee, 1966 to 1968. The Private, Internal Rand Corporation Study, 1968. The Private Stork Panel, 1998. The Secret Advanced Aviation Threat Identification Program, which was funded from 2007 to 2012. An Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force, a continuing program within the United States Office of Naval Intelligence which was acknowledged in 2017. Thousands of documents released under FOIA also indicate that many U.S. intelligence agencies collected, and still collect, information on UFOs. These agencies include the Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA, FBI, 7, CIA, National Security Agency, NSA, as well as military intelligence agencies of the Army and U.S. Navy, in addition to the Air Force. Note 3. The investigation of UFOs has also attracted many civilians, who in the U.S. formed research groups such as NICAP, active 1956 to 1980, Aerial Phenomena Research Organization, APRO, active 1952 to 1988, MUFON, active 1969, and QFOS, active 1973. In November 2011, the White House released an official response to 2 petitions asking the U.S. government to acknowledge formally that aliens have visited this planet and to disclose any intentional withholding of government interactions with extraterrestrial beings. According to evidence that any life exists outside our planet, or that an extraterrestrial presence has contacted or engaged any member of the human race. Also, according to the response, there is no credible information to suggest that any evidence is being hidden from the public's eye. The response further noted that efforts, like SETI and NASA's Kepler Space Telescope and Mars Science Laboratory, continue looking for signs of life. The response noted odds are pretty high that there may be life on other planets, but the odds of us making contact with any of them, especially any intelligent ones, are extremely small, given the distances involved.